Broadcasting the information the mainstream media won't touch. This is The Richie Allen Show in association with DavidIke.com.
My next guest developed the globalnomic methodology to identify, track, forecast and manage trends. He describes himself as a political atheist. He has worked in politics before, of course. He's incredibly generous with his time. We recommend the Trends Journal. It's fantastic. Subscribe to it. Go to trendsresearch.com. Let's welcome back to the programme our friend, Mr. Gerald Celente. Gerald, welcome back. How are you?
No, thanks for having me on, Richie. It's very kind of you. Thank you so much for the kind words.
Not at all. That's a true story, by the way. I have not made that up. A friend of mine said, forget that, Back to the Future. Take the Trends Journal with you.
Oh,
Go back. Great. And it's absolutely true. Feel free to use that, as some comedians would say, because it is true. Delighted you're on, my friend. I know you're up to your absolute eyeballs with the election. So I'm going to jump straight in. What's going on with Hillary Clinton?
You know, for example, you know, everybody saw the video of her, wobbling and falling. And they said that later on they said she had pneumonia. And then, of course, yesterday Bill Clinton said she had the flu. And when she fell, you know, they were holding her up. And then they brought her to her daughter's apartment in New York. This all happened in New York on Sunday. And then 90 minutes later, she came back and said, I'm feeling great. And they let her get away with that. Now, anybody listening, yourself, anyone, you know, suppose you have a cold and it's really getting you down. And somebody asks you, hey, how do you feel? You say, oh, man, I feel lousy. Wow. Not Hillary, man. She got pneumonia and I feel great. Now, then, of course, you know, they said, oh, it's no big deal. Okay. The only time in my life when I was feeling bad that my knees buckled is when I ripped my cruciate ligament and my knee was ripped out. So the fact of the matter is, you got to really have something wrong with you to be unable to hold yourself up. And you're collapsing all over the place, and you can see how bad it was. So it's either nothing or something. And the something is that she's lying. And that's all they ever do. Read my lips, no new taxes. I didn't have sex with that woman, Monica Lewinsky. I smoked, but I didn't inhale. Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction and ties to Al-Qaeda. And, of course, I go back to the days of Vietnam when they lied about the Gulf of Tonkin incident. So why would anybody believe one word that comes out of sociopaths and psychopaths' mouths?
Brilliant. I can't wait to hear what you think about some of those rumours doing the rounds of social media, which... I mean, I never expected social media when I started out making programmes. And you've been making programmes, Gerald. And by the way, you can find the Trends Journal on YouTube as well. And Gerald does Trends in the News. It's fantastic. It's great. It's funny. At times it's very witty and caustic, but at the same time it's sharp in its analysis. I do recommend it. I never imagined social media. I never, ever expected anything like this, where rumours do the rounds of the world in a few seconds. What about body doubles, Gerald? And what about, some of the claims being made that where her daughter is supposed to have an apartment, there might actually be some sort of a kind of a hospice set up there? Are some of these rumours just absolutely crazy? Or is it the usual case of, well, somewhere between the truth and the lie, somewhere between her story and somewhere between the conspiracy theorists, in the middle lies the truth? What do you think?
I would say in the middle lies the truth. Why would anybody believe anything that the government says? They're all sociopaths and psychopaths. Look at that low-life scum that was the Prime Minister of the UK, Tony Blair. You want to talk about a piece of low-level crap that lies through his teeth and gets away with it? Look at this other guy that's coming out with all the news about, they hacked into his emails, Colin Powell, the former Secretary of State, about the emails that he had sent around talking down the Clintons and other things.
Yeah.
Why would colon? Yeah, crap passes through the colon and it comes out of his mouth. This is the war criminal who held up a little vial on international media as proof that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction and ties to Al-Qaeda. A vial of his crap. And yet they quote this little son of a bee as though he's an authority. He's the perfect authority. He is a perfect authority of what low-life scum are running a country near you. And they put out this crap as though it's coming from authorities. They are authorities. They are authorities in mass murder and high thievery. Look what's going on in the United States with Wells Fargo. How they paid people to set up fake accounts, credit cards, and other things that screwed millions of people. Not one head rolls, nobody goes to jail. Too big to jail. They're sick people, and everybody out there who calls themselves a member of a political party, keep your sick crap to yourself. I don't want to hear about it anymore. Once you call yourself a Republican, a conservative, a Labor Party, this or that, you've narrowed your mind into something smaller than mothballs.
It's amazing you mentioned Wells Fargo, and you talk about understatements. Just had a clip come up there. I didn't mean for a clip to come up, but one of the Massachusetts senators, Elizabeth Warren, has been saying about Wells Fargo, there's a problem with senior management there. And you just think, and I know your anger is real. I've spoken with you dozens of times over the last 7 or 8 years, and I know it really gets to you to see these people kind of getting recycled. This must kill you, Gerald, when you see Colin Powell being interviewed about the current election cycle, or when they drag Donald Rumsfeld out, and you think these people, even the most saintly human being would agree these people should be locked up in Leavenworth or somewhere like that for the rest of their lives.
They should do to them what they do to other murderers.
Yeah.
Send them to Texas and execute them if they're found guilty. That's what they love to do. These people started wars that have killed millions of people, and nobody calls them out. Instead, the prostitutes bow down, suck up, like the old prostitutes do. You get paid to put out. So and my anger when I talk about this is people say, Celente gets angry. Hey, grow up, Junior. Here's the deal. We're talking about Wells Fargo, if Jesus Christ, the Prince of Peace, could become violent and pick up a whip to drive the money changers out of the temple, I could become angry. And the money changers, all they did is change their name. They're Wells Fargo. They're the Merrill Lynch mob. They're the Goldman Sachs gang. They're the J.P. Morgan Chase criminals. They're the Wells Fargo bandits. And the people have lost their courage. Not in a lot of countries. And, I was on your show the last time with the UK, right after the Brexit vote. And I remember it well. And they were talking about repealing it. And I said, no, I don't think it's going to happen. And now, of course, Theresa May is trying to water it down. The point I'm making is the power that the people have. If the people would stay unified, here, Richie, this is a fact. I study information continually. The major message of the G20 meeting that they just had was the concern they have that people, particularly in Europe, have had it with globalization. And here's the quote from the IMF, the International Mafia Federation, Managing Director Christine Lagarde. World leaders need to better manage the frustration over the failure of globalization to deliver widely shared benefits. So, as trend forecasters, we're very cognizant of innuendo of language. World leaders need to better manage frustration. Not manage, you got to keep lying. You got to keep the con game going. We'll be polite because we're the elite. So we're going to use the word manage, to manage the sheeple. What I'm saying to you is the opportunity for new systems to develop now has never been better in my lifetime.
Is that because, Gerald, it's in people's faces in a way that it never was? For example, you will be aware that yesterday the president of the EU Commission, another gangster, Jean-Claude Juncker, and this was a guy who many years ago, along with others, was lying through his teeth when he said, well, the European Union is all about cooperation, economic cooperation, doing business with one another. It's never going to be a political union. Now, the wretched liar yesterday said, not only is it going to be a political union because we want to appoint a foreign minister, but we also want to push even harder to get a common European defence fund to basically build this European army. I think what you're saying is the opportunity is there because even the press can't hide what these liars are doing now, right? Because it's right there now.
That's only part of it. You know, I was saying, you know, when people lose everything and they have nothing left to lose, they lose it. They lost their houses. They lost their jobs. They're losing their future. It's in their pocketbook. It's in their lifestyles. And you mentioned, who did you just mention?
Jean-Claude Juncker, yeah, the EU Commission president.
Juncker or drunker?
Yeah, he's always drunk, yeah. That's right.
Juncker or drunker? Again, a little piece of crap. I would love for one of these guys to try to throw their crap to me face to face. I would love 57 John Street, Kingston, New York. Come over here, Juncker. Come over here, Blair. Come over here, Obama. Try to throw your crap on me. And I've had it with this election. I don't want to hear. It's not anymore an election between a lesser of two evils. Are you allowed to say the word asshole on your show?
Yes, we're past the watershed. You can say whatever you want, my friend.
Well,
anything.
It's the greater of two assholes. And I will not, whoever gets elected, be it Hillary or Hitler, Trump or Clinton, they are not my leaders. They are not my presidents. They're fronts for a mob. A mob that has more blood on their hands than the Bloods and the Crips could ever have. They've killed millions of people around the world. Oh, look at that report that's just coming out from the UK on the disaster of Libya. Oh, we took a misstep. A misstep? You destroyed the most prosperous country in Africa. You created a hellhole. I've had it with the politicians, with the political parties. I will not vote for a lesser of two evils or a greater of two assholes.
You know what, my
friend? That's all this is for me.
It's wonderful to hear you say that because some of our friends, and I do mean friends, I'm not having hidden digs at anybody. These are friends of ours who will be on this program again. They've thrown their weight. They've thrown their weight behind Trump or in the past Sanders, It's great to hear you saying that. Can I ask you to speculate on something, Gerald? Why do you think it is that the elite or the mob, as we've been talking about, why do you think it is that they're so desperate for Clinton to be elected? Because I'm with you 100%. It doesn't matter which of them gets in. Why is it so important that she gets in?
I went down.
Oh, did you go down a bit? Did you? All right, I lost you briefly. No worries. Well, you're back in the room, as they say. I was just asking you, why do you think it is that even though you are obviously right, it doesn't matter for the people which of them gets in? Why is it so important? I think we might have lost Gerald again there. Have we? Or is he still with us? Are you with us, Gerald? No. He's not with us for some reason. He's just dropped out on us there. Skype is telling us that it's trying to get the call back. We'll hang on with Skype a second and we'll hope that we do get him back. Gerald Celente is on the line, and I recommend you go to trendsresearch.com. That's his website. There you can find out how to even subscribe to the journal. I'm just going to disconnect and try to reconnect with him. His internet might have gone down. My internet is fine. There is an internet connection problem, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do. While he's coming back, I'm going to take a very quick break. Back in a minute.
Have you lost access to important data from a computer hard drive, mobile phone, or other storage device? Maybe you have a broken hard drive containing years of information.
Right, I think Chris at dataclinic.co.uk will forgive me for cutting that short. You never do that on radio, by the way. Cut an ad short, you're usually sacked. You're fired. Gerald, I think you're back in the room. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm back. I guess you're not allowed to say asshole.
No, you're not. That could be it, my friend. Yeah, the regulatory authority in Great Britain has just kicked Celente off the air. I love that. That's what I'm going to tell people anyway. I was going to ask you, you're obviously right about it doesn't matter. You know, David Icke was on before you today. He agrees with you. The choice that is presented to the American people is no choice. We agree with that. Speculate as to why the mob, as we call them, the elite, why is it so important to them that she becomes president?
Well, look at her credentials. I mean, she has a credential of a neocon. Look at her husband. You know, the day he got elected, he started bombs away over Baghdad. People forget that he was bombing Iraq in the 1990s every 4 days. The no-fly zones. So they have a perfect war record of neocon murderers. People forget Bill Clinton put sanctions on Iraq. Over 500,000 Iraqi children under the age of 5, according to the United Nations, died because of the lack of medical supplies, food, etc. And anybody could Google it up. Just put in Madeleine Albright, the Secretary of State at the time, Leslie Stahl, who was a correspondent on CBS 60 Minutes, and you can listen to Madeleine Albright respond to Leslie Stahl's question, was the price of 500,000 Iraqi children under the age of 5 that are dead worth the price of sanctions? And Madeleine Albright said, yes.
Psychopath.
Yes. So let's keep going. And isn't a great job what they did with Yugoslavia? Bill Clinton's war. So you look at the murderous track record, Hillary Clinton, a big proponent of the Afghan war, a proponent of the Iraq war. And when I say proponent, these low-life creatures, when they're surrounded by the prostitutes and the bodyguards, they call everybody that doesn't support them unpatriotic and un-American. So it's not only that they support the war, they demean people like myself for not supporting it. When the fever pitch is to go to war. Now let's keep going on with to answer your question, why they want Hitlery. Susan Rice, Samantha Powers, and Hillary Clinton, the three witches of, not Macbeth, but of D.C., were the ones that promoted the Libyan war. It's Hillary Clinton. Assad has to go. Who is she to tell Assad has to go? And that clown Obama, commander-in-chief, little traitor-in-chief. So then you look at her connections to Wall Street and the Democratic Party. When the liar Obama lied his way into office as candidate Obama, he was going to prosecute everyone on Wall Street. Not one head rolled. Billions of dollars of fines and no jail time. Eric Holder, the Attorney General at the time, under Obama, they're too big to jail. He went back to work with the White Shoe Boy firm over there on Wall Street, Eric Holder. So you ask why they want her there. Because she's Miss Corporate. You know, she sat on the board of Walmart. Walmart's destroyed American entrepreneur business. Killed Main Streets, one after another during the 90s and much of 2000s. Wiping out people out of business. All those little liberals out there, little cowards, they forget that's Bill Clinton that brought us GMOs 20 years ago. And ironically now, of course, Bayer's buying out Monsanto in one of the biggest deals ever. So you ask why they like Clinton, because they love greedy psychopaths. Birds of a feather flock together.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned Bayer and Monsanto. There's not been, at least in my broadcasting career anyway, I know you'll probably shoot me down, you'll have a better example, but I can't think of a more anti-competitive deal than that. It stinks, that deal, doesn't it? But I suppose we know.
I'll give you another reason to answer your question. You brought up another point that I just forgot. And you asked me why they want Clinton. Bill Clinton is the one that deregulated the communications industry in America. At one time, you had literally thousands of individual owners of radio stations and local TV stations around the country. Bill Clinton deregulated the communications industry in 1996. Richie, 6 companies now control over 90% of Americans' media.
Yeah.
Now, why do you think that Bill and Hillary Clinton get paid $300,000 an hour to give a speech? You could hear him BS for free all day long. It's called payback.
We see it here. I mean, we're only going to keep you for another couple of minutes. I know you've more of these to do. We see it here. Gerald, I saw it in Ireland. I began at WLR FM in Ireland, which is a very successful commercial radio station in East Cork, Waterford City first and foremost, East Cork, Wexford, Kilkenny. And those stations that existed when I started out were owned by men and women in the community. Yes, they were owned by businessmen and women, but they belonged to that community, and those businessmen and women didn't own dozens of radio stations. We have it here now in Britain with Bauer, with UTV, with other companies. They just own blocks of radio stations. So it's one message and one voice getting through to people all the time. This sanitised message, you know, pay your taxes, be a good boy, and vote every time there's an election, and all will be good. This is what we have. Are you saying, I know you're not saying this, but I'm going to ask you anyway, I know you're not really saying this, that it's kind of hopeless when people are kind of attached to, like an umbilical cord, attached to the media, attached to TV and radio that's owned by the mob. How do you break people out of that?
It's being broken. You just can't. They just had a Gallup poll in America, America's confidence in the mainstream media is at an historic low. So people are tuning into you. They're tuning into others. We need a solidified movement to change the course. And whether it's the Five-Star movement in Italy, whether it's the AfD movement in Germany, whether it's the Freedom Party in Austria, we need to break up the duopolies. And the message is populist. And what the mainstream media is doing, it's categorizing populists as right-wing fanatics because they do not want to be slaves in the centralized slavelandia governments of multinationals and their slave owners. So to me, the new parties are the way of the future, but ones that are truly populist and not populist like the Trump campaign in America or some of the other ones like the Podemos party in Spain, where they have elements of it, but they're not true to it.
Like Syriza in Greece, like we saw, which we predicted.
Oh, what a piece of crap.
You and me, by the way, I don't put myself on the same level as you. I'm not an idiot. I've never done that. I mentioned when we were down, folks should go to trendsresearch.com. This man has been calling it accurately for years and years. And I wouldn't ever compare myself to you. But you and I, and maybe David Icke, were the only people screaming when Alexis Tsipras became Prime Minister of Greece. We were the only ones saying this is going to end in disaster. People couldn't see it, Gerald.
Look at that slimy little boy. Again, I can't stand these little boys with their attitude that couldn't fight their way out of a paper bag. And they talk tough. They're not men. There's not a man among them. This is the little clown after 64% of the, ironically, where the seeds of democracy were sown, Greece voted against austerity. And that little boy said, screw you. Your vote doesn't count.
Yeah.
I'm going to shove austerity down your throat because I'm a little suck-up slave to the higher-ups and I want to stay in office.
You can't believe that he's not running down the street screaming as he's being chased by an angry mob. Look, I want to mention again, just because we've got to leave it there. Folks, go to trendsresearch.com, go to Gerald's YouTube channel, subscribe to that as well. Look for trends in the news. Like I said earlier, it's funny and humour is important. You know, it's a great way to cut right to the heart of the matter, but also, you know, to hold people's attention. Thanks for everything you do, mate. Thanks for coming on because you get so many of these, and we didn't give you a lot of time to. We didn't give you much by way of notice. I appreciate it. I hope you'll give us a few minutes when the election is said and done.
Oh, anytime. You know that, Richie. And by the way, everyone, really pay attention to what's going on in the equity markets. We're in for a very volatile time.
Brilliant. Well, you should subscribe to Trends Journal at trendsresearch.com anyway. Gerald, look after yourself. Thanks for your time, my friend. Enjoy the rest of the day.
You too, and thank you for all that you do.
Marvellous. The great Gerald Celente on the line to us there from his office in New York City. Always good to chat with him. Sorry about the brief interruption there in the middle of that, but I think we did all right there, didn't we?